to ask questions?
That's correct.
Okay. So, yes, we've had some technical difficulties, and I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:20. Ivana's going to tell me that item 2 is adoption of the agenda. Could I get a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Are there any late items? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Okay, so then we are on to the agenda. We're on to delegations. And so we are having the fire services review delegation. So Dave Mitchell has the floor.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
We
I
can.
can.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this is going to work. You need to enable screen sharing or you can.
I can share it here, Dave. I've got it teed up here.
Okay.
Is that good for everyone?
Sure. That sounds fine.
Yes.
So you could go to the second slide, please. Okay. Well, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Lytton Fire Service Review with you. We commenced this project in June with a Zoom session with the acting CAO and other members of the Lytton transition team. We tabled a list of documents for our review, outlined our methodology for the project, and planned to meet with the fire chief and members of the department. Now, looking ahead, we will identify the major issues facing all fire services in BC, and they may seem formidable when you see them, but you are not alone. So, first of all, the mandatory training requirements for structural firefighting are being revised and they're being expanded. The Fire Safety Act is pending, which will affect how your department operates and certain obligations that the village must meet. The Emergency Program Act is being rewritten, reflecting the changes in responses we have seen in the past several years, and local governments can expect to have greater responsibilities under the new act. These changes are considerable and becoming more complex. We will identify the priorities and timeline, and as the cover slide noted, for fire services in BC, this is a time of significant change. Next slide, please. Okay, so for more than 22 years, our firm is honored to have provided independent consulting advice throughout BC starting in 2000. Many of these have been in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, including 2017 when we reviewed 11 fire departments, including Lytton at the time. Our area of practice is British Columbia for the most part, but also includes the further north, including Whitehorse and Yellowknife, along with fire services in Alberta with Calgary and Lethbridge, Winnipeg, and the Toronto Fire Service. So there's a number of people working on this project for you. First of all, I'm Dave Mitchell. I started with the Vancouver Fire Department in April of 1966. Then in 1998, for 2 years, I was with ECOM, the Regional Emergency 911 System for BC now, in a position that's now titled Vice President of Operations. And since 2000, my colleagues and I have been providing fire services consulting primarily in this province. Another member of the team is Wayne Humphrey, a Vancouver Fire Department veteran as well. And Wayne is a fire service training and incident management expert. Jim Cook is part of the team, and he's a retired fire chief from West Vancouver. And his specialties are budgets, policy, and the organizational model. Ian McDonald, who is joining me for the presentation this evening, is a retired corporate services lawyer, and he deals with the many regulatory issues. Patrick McPhillips, as well as part of the team, a retired assistant chief of operations in Coquitlam. But Patrick also has 10 plus years with wildfire management throughout BC, including lots in the TNRD. Gordon Anderson is part of our team, and he's the retired BC Fire Commissioner. And Peter Wunder, a professional engineer, also a risk management expert. Next slide, please. So in terms of the methodology, this outlines the meetings and discussions in a relatively short time frame. We spoke with everyone we possibly could. Members of our team were particularly impressed by Chief Phillips and his firefighters. In over 50 years, I can't recall a group that retained such a positive commitment to the community, all the while facing so many challenges. We toured the village a number of times, the destroyed part as well as that which was saved. We had meetings via phone and Zoom with the village leadership team, who also provided really invaluable context, as did the discussion with Bruce Blackwell and Associates. We've also provided a range of templates for the CAO to consider, as well as models for standard operational guidelines. Next slide, please. So we'll talk about the BC Fire Service context. Your fire department, like all others, is facing major service challenges. The mandatory training standards for structure firefighting in BC are being amended, and we suspect they will now be fully aligned with WorkSafe BC. The pending Fire Safety Act will significantly change how local governments conduct fire safety inspections, switching to a risk-based model and redefining the requirements for fire inspectors and fire investigators. The Emergency Program Act is being rewritten, and we suspect it will be presented to the legislature early in 2023. It embraces the Sendai model and will fully recognize and harmonize with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We suspect as well that it may mandate formal community risk assessments, which we have seen elsewhere in Canada. Our company recently completed one for Yellowknife in the Northwest Territory. And when we see the final rewritten act, it will be an all government approach with a broader range of stakeholders that will need to be included. And firefighter health and safety continues to be a concern. There are now 16 cancers which are presumed to be related to the profession of firefighting. Post-traumatic stress disorder is now recognized, and heart disease is now also considered to be a presumptive disease for firefighters in BC. Quite simply, firefighting is a very dangerous profession. Okay, there. Next slide, please. Okay, so this was the report by the coroner for the 2021 heat dome. It identified a number of concerns we had not seen before. Her report noted that 911 calls doubled during the peak, and BC Emergency Health Services had issues with availability of ambulances, and I think we've seen that continuing this year. Fire departments generally saw their resources stretched to the limit, and for some periods of time in emergency services, there was simply no reserve capacity left. Next slide, please. The new BC Fire Commissioner, Brian Godlinton, has now provided his annual report for 2021 and noted a doubling of fire deaths in 3 years and a 119% increase in the number of fire-related deaths in the past 2 years. The Commissioner also reports that those aged 50 and greater have a higher rate of death by fire, and he expresses a concern given this demographic is increasing. Next slide, please. So there are 3 service levels contemplated by the Office of the Fire Commissioner Training Standards: full service, a department like Vancouver, interior operations, and exterior operations. Under council policy, the Lytton Fire Rescue operates at the exterior operations service level. The mandatory training requirements for your department are drawn from various NFPA standards, which have been adopted by the fire commissioner. The 14 bullet points are the major areas containing what are called the job performance requirements. Now, the department's members and officers must meet these standards to operate safely and to meet both the Office of the Fire Commissioner's requirements and WorkSafe BC's training standards. Now, loss of the department's training records in the fire means that their qualifications need to be confirmed. And I should say at this point, this does not imply or state that they're not trained. Rather, it is the case that this must be assessed and confirmed to protect them, to protect the department, and to protect the village. And it's a point we made with the chief and his members when we met with them last week. Next slide, please. Okay, so looking forward, the village and the department have a number of priorities. They are based on the mandatory regulatory requirements for a municipal fire department. They are contained in our report and are designed to identify, to manage, and to reduce risk for the village and for the fire department. So we speak of an operational and establishment bylaw. These are necessary to define the department's responsibilities, set out its administrative structures, and to grant the necessary authority for the department's emergency responses. Without a proper grant of powers from its bylaw, the department has no clear operational authority. OH&S program, these are the requirements of the Workers' Compensation Act and are mandatory for the department and for the village. Let's talk about service agreements. The village's obligations to provide fire protection services to neighboring First Nations need to be codified to clarify the obligations, allocate risk, and limit and manage liability. And training requirements. British Columbia has minimum mandatory training requirements, and there must be an appropriate written training record for every member of the department confirming their qualifications. The records were lost in the 2021 fire, and as such, the department will need to undertake what are called prior learning assessments for its members and to implement a records management system to manage, record them, and to save them. Next slide, please. So we did look at the data from your department, when and where they respond, and this is their responses by year. And despite all of the challenges, your department has continued to respond since the 2021 fire. Was a concern or a question the fire underwriters raised a few months ago. You can see that some years are busier than others, and overall responses have fallen from a peak in 2014, 2015, but they continue on to this day. Next slide, please. This looks at the responses by month, and what you can see here again is the department has a wide range of responses by month. The busiest month, March, is more than double November, and this often varies by year. And this previous slide and this one really talk about the complexity of fire services. It's not one smooth continuing thing. It varies a lot and that presents challenges. Next slide, please. This shows the responses by type, and your department responds to a wide range of incidents in the village, the surrounding area, and on the highways in either direction. The largest portion of these, as with most fire departments, are first medical response. These are followed by motor vehicle accidents and various types of fires. Next slide, please. So, summary, your department was severely impacted by the fire in June 2021, more than any other fire department in BC. It is also affected by the complex and ever-changing regulatory requirements, which impose significant administrative requirements on both the department and on the village. And ultimately, it is the village which is responsible for ensuring that these obligations, WorkSafe, OFC, Fire Services Act, etc., we have to ensure that are being met by your department. And through all of this adversity, we have met with your chief and firefighters on a number of occasions. We continue to be impressed by their never give up attitude and hear their total commitment to public safety for the village of Lytton, the adjacent First Nations, and for travelers through the canyon. Going forward, though, a formidable list of things to do, and they will need ongoing support to manage the many issues facing them. Next slide, and we can go to any questions you may have. Well, that was the final slide for our presentation, and we'll look to any questions or comments.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I believe the village has a fair amount of work to undertake in the next year to comply to the, to all the items that you have identified. Okay, well, thank you. I don't hear any other questions, so we'll speak to you later on. So we are on to item 4, public comment. Not sure how this is going to work, but is there any public comment?
Your worship, members of the public are now invited to comment on matters related to the agenda for up to 2 minutes. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. And you can find that by clicking on reactions at the bottom of your screen and then clicking raise hand. When it is your turn, I'll read your name and we will ask you to unmute yourself. You'll get a pop-up on your screen asking you to unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak, and I will give you a 30-second warning. At the end of 2 minutes, your microphone will automatically be disabled. So yeah, if there is anyone who has public comment, just raise your hand. Okay, I've got a few here. I'm starting a list. So our first public comment is from Edith Loring Kuhanga. I'll ask her to unmute.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm coming before you tonight regarding item 2, special meeting of Council, September 21st meeting minutes. 7.3, contract for temporary municipal office and fire hall. The motion to award the contract was tabled to the new council, which I agreed to at the time, not because I did not want a temporary office, but because I did not agree with the process for selecting and awarding the contract, which in my opinion was flawed. Now that I have more information, I'm asking that the council please consider rescinding the tabled motion and deal with the awarding of the contract tonight. Over the past few days, I've learned more about the progress and timelines of the temporary office and fire hall. Waiting until a new council gets in may impede us from having a temporary office in the next couple of months. Also, with winter around the corner, this project could be delayed until the spring, which would be detrimental to our overall progress. Also, I believe that it is imperative that our CAO, Michael Baker, has one location where all of his staff can work closely and collaboratively with one another as his team is continuing to grow. It is also essential that our residents have a local office where they can readily access staff and council sooner than later. It is imperative that we do not slow down the work, but work together in speeding up the work. For these reasons, I'm asking all of you to please consider rescinding the tabled motion. And I just have a reminder about the all candidates meeting tomorrow, Thursday, September 29th from 6 to 8 on Zoom. I also, Yvonne, would like to point out an error in the minutes.
Yeah, go ahead. Leslie can.
Okay, just quickly, on August the 24th, regular minutes, page 1411.1a, status of committee and membership. The last sentence of the first paragraph, I believe, should read dormant, not dominate. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Denise O'Connor. So I'll ask Denise to unmute.
There, good evening. Yeah, Denise O'Connor here from 522 Fraser Street. I'd like to speak to the minutes of last week's special meeting that are on tonight's agenda. I'd like to echo much of what Edith has just said regarding the tabled motion of the village office and fire hall. The new council does not begin its work for another 4 weeks, so I'd hate to see the time wasted by tabling things to the new council. You, the council now, have a month of work to do. At the special meeting, I was not the one who asked for the motion to be left for the new council. I did say that I had questions about it. So should you consider rescinding that motion, I would hope your decision is well informed and you have all the information needed. I've spoken this week to a few Lytton taxpayers who were surprised and some not very impressed that the motion was tabled for the new council, whoever that council might be. So my question to you is, would you consider rescinding the motion regarding the village office and fire hall tonight? Thank you.
So your worship, I don't have any more speakers, but maybe we'll just wait one moment and see if there are any others. I do have one. I have Ernie Wagner. I'll ask him to unmute now.
Yes, Ernie Wagner, Legacy. Yeah, I agree with the two former speakers. And I did ask for the parish hall to be used as a temporary village place where everybody can meet. And I still think that should go along quickly, but I agree that the former plan should be put in again. Okay, thank you. Bye.
And again, your worship, I'm not seeing any further speakers, so I think we can continue with the agenda. Oh, there's one more here. It's Willie, and I'll ask him to unmute.
Good evening, everybody. Willie Nelson here. I'd just like to second Ernie's vision for the parish hall to be the new temporary village council. And I would like to question why the chat function is not functioning right now, and why the village has advised the chamber to have the chat function unoperational tomorrow. Are you intentionally trying to suppress people's voices? Thank you very much.
So, your worship, I'm not seeing any more speakers for public comment.
Thank you. So we are on to adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting held August the 24th. Would someone like to make the motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any corrections to the minutes of August the 24th? I believe there was one that one of our prospective council members has pointed out.
Your worship, this is Miss Grew, so it's on page 14 and it should say dormant, not dominate. So I have got that correction.
So you have that correction?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other corrections? Hearing none. Who would, I guess we need a motion to pass the minutes as amended. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So we're now moving on to the meetings of the special meeting for council on the 21st. Could I get a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Are there any corrections? Councillor Hay.
Thank you, your worship. Page 17 of 34. Under staff present, we have Chief Financial Officer Terry Hawes. Below that, we have regrets from CFO Terry Hawes. I believe he was absent from that meeting. On page 19 of 34, under motion 22-019S, moved by Council Hay, seconded by Council Gray, the council approves entering into a memorandum of understanding, bracket on, MOU, bracket off, with the RCMP for the purpose of engaging the village of Lytton contractors to remediate 3, bracket on, 3, bracket off, lot 665 Main Street, 625 Main Street, and 666 along the way, should read for amount up to a maximum of $180,000, with the funds being initially drawn from the provincial government community recovery fund contribution agreement for $18.4 million and reimbursed by the RCP as outlined on the memorandum of understanding.
Are there any other corrections?
Yep.
Oh, Councillor Hay?
Sorry, same page, 19 of 34. Number 6 says the village of Lytton main telephone line 250-455-2355. I thought I asked at the meeting that night if that was a cell phone, and I was said, so it is a landline?
CFO House?
To the mayor, so Councillor A, the phone number is a landline
Okay, that's all.
that we've forwarded to a cell phone and forwarded to the Boston Bar office.
Thank you very much for that term.
Thank you.
That's all.
Are there any further corrections?
Yes, your mayor, I have one on motion 22-017S. I actually voted against that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so all in favor of adopting the special meeting minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Hay, aye.
Thank you. So we're on to item 6.1, the delegation request for the temporary use permit of a construction trailer at 145. CAO Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. So for this particular one, I've been dealing with the proponents on it, and the next stage in this application will be a OCP amendment. So if the proponent chooses to pursue the request for the construction trailer at 145 Fraser Street, we will be working with them on bringing forward a OCP amendment, which begins at the staff level. So,
thank you. So now we're on to, are there any questions? Hearing none, we're on to 6.2, criteria for federal funding announcement. CAO Baker, the floor is yours.
So again, this is just another update as to where we're at in this process. As everybody is aware, we've received $64 million infrastructure grant, and we've been working with our provincial and federal counterparts as to where our different needs can fit into this program. So initially, they have put the $64 million into the Green Community Infrastructure Fund. That applies to specific buildings, but there are certain criteria within that. And the update that I'm providing today is that the Village of Lytton will be driving this process with our provincial and federal counterparts by providing them a needs assessment that we will be working with our existing and new council on developing, so that they can try and identify programs within their specific ministries that our needs can fit into. Thank you.
Are there any questions? I have one question. There is approximately 6 million allotted to homeowners. When can the homeowners expect an answer as to what the requirements are to access the money?
As we continue to work through this with our provincial and federal counterparts, we will provide that information. At this point in time, I wouldn't want to give false hope or deter people giving inaccurate deadlines at this point in time.
The reason I've asked this question is when the recovery or the reclamation of the site is complete, there's going to be people who wish to rebuild, and I'm quite sure that they would like to know, what the standards are in order to qualify for the loan and how much. So if you would make that a priority, I believe that the village's needs should come second.
So, excuse me, Mayor, you said loan. We're talking about a grant here, are we?
Yeah, a grant, yes. Well, basically what I'm trying to say is that the homeowners need to know, and their needing to know is more important than the village's need to know.
I certainly agree with that, being a homeowner that will certainly apply for those funds when they come available.
Right. Thank you. So we are on to item 7.1.2, the council schedule change for the inauguration. The update, I thought that was the update from the Director of Recovery. We just did.
No.
Oh. Okay, sorry. So we're on to 7.1.1, the update from the Director of Recovery. Let's see.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will do my best here, giving the update from the Director of Recovery. As everybody's aware, that position is currently vacant. But basically, I'll start with a community cleanup update. Basically, approximately 90 properties have been cleared to date of debris and metal. Approximately 30 properties have had all hazardous soil material removed now. So that's about 25% or so. Our geotech work has begun. The defined scope of work has been provided. It is going to be being provided to council. We're just working on the actual timing of when that comes forward to this council or the new council, because we do need to continue on with the geotechnical assessments that need to be done, and don't want to delay this process any further. Tree removal has been ongoing. Arborist report was received, and the tree removal has been approved by council and has been ongoing. Hobo Hollow CN was working with the village of Lytton, and a cleanup was to be done down on the CN property on Tuesday. I have not had a chance to follow up with CN or our staff to see how that went. And I think that's basically it for my recovery update this week.
Thank you. So I guess now we're on to 7.1.2, the council schedule change for inauguration.
Correct. So the initial schedule had the October 26th meeting identified as the council inauguration meeting. So what we would be looking at doing now is either canceling the October 26th 26th meeting or changing it from the inauguration meeting to a regular meeting of council. The second and third bullet points, the inaugural meeting of the new council. We've currently scheduled the judge to be in attendance for the swearing ins, and the regular council meeting for November the 9th and 23rd for the new council. So we will need the first 2 points at least dealt with here.
Are there any questions? Councillor Hay?
I realize that the inaugural meeting has to take place in the first 10 days of November, according to the procedure bylaw. But between the 12th, I would hate to see the new council, going back to my first time on council, walk into a meeting and all of a sudden have stuff that's 4 weeks from the 12th until almost the 9th of November to look after one time. So I recommend that the 26th of October meeting remain as a regular council meeting.
How do the other council members feel about including a regular council meeting for October the 26th?
I agree with Councillor Hay. We should keep the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Urquhart?
I could see keeping the meeting, but I'm not sure how we could make decisions when another council has already been elected. I'm not sure how effective.
I believe you have been elected until the new council takes over.
Yes.
Thank you.
But
okay. Councillor Michelle?
I'd be good with keeping the meeting.
Thank you. So you have made the motion then to keep. Okay, thank you. So the regular council meeting for October the 26th is back on. Thank you. Never went off. So we are on to item 7.2, the chief financial officer.
Sure. So we still actually need a motion from that.
Full motion.
To schedule the November 2nd, 2022 inaugural.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me. You had a motion. I believe Councillor Hay moved it, but then he needed a seconder. Is that correct?
I'll second.
There's no motion necessary. The 26th of October shall be on our regular council schedule that we put out. The only time we need a motion if we're going to cancel it.
So if I may through there here, so the initial schedule has it as the inauguration meeting, not as a regular meeting. It does.
Yeah.
So we would need to cancel the inauguration meeting and change it to a regular meeting of council. We also need to deal with the November 2nd inauguration meeting, actually having a motion to have that.
Councillor Hay?
Sorry, I bear with me while I talk. I'm not trying to pick bones here. I have a hard time understanding how October 26th I put in as the inaugural meeting when both the community charter and the village of Lytton's procedure bylaw say it's in November.
Councillor Hay, the community charter actually is different now. So that's probably where the confusion came from. Community charter was changed. But anyways, your procedure bylaw will proceed. I've had a discussion with Miss Story about this, and the procedure bylaw is the one that we were following. That's why November 2nd was recommended.
Do we need a motion?
What would you like done?
I believe I'll make the motion that we hold a regular council meeting on the 26th of October, and that the November 2nd date be the 2022 inaugural meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So we are now on to 7.2, the Chief Financial Officer, CFO Haas.
Thank you, Your Worship. So 7.21 is the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program grants. Staff have been working with the grantor on this to get our foot in the door and an application in. Certainly, we don't have the specific engineering and details and other elements that are required for the grants. And we require a resolution from council to be submitted to the grantor to support our initial application. And consistent with the community strategic funds grants application we did in August, that things may change a little bit in terms of the precise application and details, but we need this to get our foot in the door and to hopefully be successful for an allocation from the grant. So staff will come back with further details as the process unfolds, and staff are just asking for a resolution that we can submit to the grantor to support the application.
Would someone like to make the motion?
I'll move.
I'll motion.
Okay.
Okay. So who's a second and who's
I'll second.
okay, thank you. So is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. So we are now on to 7.22, the ATCO trailer donated asset. There is a recommendation that council resolves to accept the ATCO office trailer as a donation and record the donation on the Village of Lytton's financial statements at fair market value of $23,000. Would someone like to?
I'll motion.
Motion?
Councillor Hay, so moved.
Is there any discussion?
Is that the trailer we already have?
That is, I believe, the trailer that's at the access point.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are on to 7.23, the second quarter financial position report.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is delayed again through technical difficulties, and it seems to be the theme of the meeting tonight. And staff will have that on the agenda for the very next meeting on October the 12th. With apologies.
Thank you. So we are now on to item 8, bylaws, policies, and resolution. 8.1 is bylaw 725, a bylaw to establish a general climate preparedness and adaptation reserve fund. I believe on the August 24th meeting, it was taken to third reading. So we now need a motion to adopt the reserve fund.
I motion that we adopt bylaw 725 to establish a general climate preparedness and adaptation reserve fund.
Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Hay, second motion.
Discussion?
Is there any technical aspects as to how much we're going to put aside or how we're going to put it aside?
CFO Haas.
Thank you, good Mayor. Councillor Urquhart, so this funding is an automatic funding distribution from the province, and it's not in the motion, but I believe it was $41,300, and that amount has already been received for 2022 from the province, and that amount will also be received in 2023 and 2024. So the purpose is just for this bylaw is to segregate it and put it into a reserve fund until council determines the the purpose of the spend that fits within the elements of the funding.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. So we are now on to 8.2, the bylaw 726, which is the permissive tax exemption. And I believe we also have taken it to third reading. This is the bylaw that establishes which properties are tax exempt.
I motion
Move
that
we
we
adopt.
adopt bylaw number 726, 2022 to provide permissive tax exemptions for 2023.
Thank you. A seconder,
Councillor
Second.
Hay, second the motion.
discussion? Hearing done, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So we are now on to item 9, which is correspondence. For action, which we don't have any. 9.2 is the correspondence for information. We have 3 letters from Mr. Wagner. And the recommendation is that the correspondence items 921 to 923 on September 28th regular council agenda be received for information.
Councillor
I'll
Hay, so
move.
moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Councillor
Aye.
Hay.
Thank you. So now we are on to reports from mayor and council. This week I went to the Festival of the River, and it seemed to be well attended. I saw that our prospective council members were there, which is good to see. I've spoken, with a variety of people regarding the rebuild, and that is my report. So Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief report. I attended UBCM with yourself and Councillor Hay. I found it a most educational event. I had some really great discussions with the Secretariat for Climate Action, the Minister for the Environment, and we of course attended meetings with other ministerial figures, which was really great to sit down and have a talk with them. I've requested these higher level people to look into this $6 million that we're supposed to get for the homeowners, sort of asking if they could help prod it along to get us the requirements that will be following. And it was overall just a really good meeting. I got a chance to meet some people that I'd only met through Zoom, but overall I learned a lot of things about other areas that have been badly impacted by last year's weather events, and how important it is for our towns to really look at setting themselves up for a positive future when it comes to climate change. I would like to make a request that we bring back the motion regarding the village office for discussion. Could we move that to the next meeting?
We could.
Thank you.
Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not much to report except the UBCM conference, and hopefully not going to steal too much thunder from Councillor Gray. Unfortunately, not all of our council were in attendance. Mayor Coleman and myself made the trip on the 11th of September. And on Tuesday, Councillor Gray joined us for the main part of the UBCM conference. Only thing I saw missing this year was the great trade show. Also, the CAO was with us and looked after us very well. UBCM was held in Whistler this year and seemed to be fully attended by all the municipalities. It's nice to meet old friends and also make some new ones. We read at 7:30 on the 12th of September, then attended the learning from the Lytton fire, preventing further wildfire disasters. Dr. Jack Cohen, retired research scientist from the U.S. Forest Service, was the main speaker and has an extremely well documented career in wildfires, both in the USA and Canada. Kelsey Winters from Fire Smart was also in attendance. The auditorium was packed, and the presentation was much more in depth than the Village of Lytton focused one, which we were presented with earlier. Very impressive presentation. I had the opportunity to speak with both these individuals, both prior to the presentation, as well as a more detailed talk on completion of the presentation along with the mayor. Attended the small talk forum in the morning of 13 September 2022. Next, plan on attending a re-imaging tourism in British Columbia, and I followed Councillor Gray onto that presentation only to find out she led me into the Clean BC Local Government Climate Action Program presentation.
My
Actually, I found
apologies.
the presentation very interesting, with lots of useful information presented, especially in the area of funding.
Thank you.
Oh,
we haven't finished, so sorry.
Page 2 of a 34-page report. The meetings we did, we met with Premier Horgan, the Honorable Nathan Cullen, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, MLA Roy Russell, Parliamentary Secretary for Rural Development, and our main focus was to thank these people and their dedicated staff for all the hard, tireless work behind the scenes to get us to where we are today, and the personal work done by them on our behalf during this great tragedy we have experienced in our village. We were scheduled to meet with the Honorable Mike Farnworth, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, but unfortunately one of the staff tested positive for COVID-19, so the meeting was canceled. It was at this meeting we were going to be able to thank the Minister and also Parliamentary Secretary General Rice for her dedication and tireless effort to assisting the Village Council during the initial stages of the recovery and throughout the past several months. MLA Rice is the Parliamentary Secretary for Emergency Preparedness, and fortunately, we met her just after meeting with the Premier and were able to sit and speak with her for a short while. We relayed our heartfelt thanks for all she has done for our village since coming aboard and the vast number of extra hours spent with her staff to get us going on the right track. Last point I have is on an entirely different note. I received a call from the Village of Lytton Fire Chief this morning around 8:30 with reference to being called out this morning at 6 a.m. to attend the underground fire still burning at the CPR yard. This has been an ongoing problem since the original wildfire took most of our village. This fire has been burning now for 15 months. Yes, 15 months. The Village of Lytton Volunteer Fire Department has been called out several times now to attend to the fire, but it is well underground and persists on burning. I personally do not know how far it has spread in the 15 months it has been active, and the fire chief is extremely worried that as it approaches the CPR tracks, there may be trouble with the track stability. If somebody is on today from CP, can we get someone within the level of CPR to attend the yard and get this fire extinguished once and for all? And I totally think the mayor and I have attended that fire probably 3 times. I personally am going to say this on tape. I will not accept responsibility as a councillor for any damage further done by that fire. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle?
I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Urquhart?
Yeah, mostly I've been just being in contact with residents and some staff, and in line with what that was spoken tonight on the 2-minute speeches, I think we should rescind the motion tonight that Councillor Hay and I made and I seconded, that awarding the contract for the design build to the village office and the fire hall. I don't think we should wait until the next meeting. I would like to see it. I would like to move actually that we rescind it. And furthermore, I would like to move that we award the contract as recommended to Matcon Underground Utilities.
Mayor Polderman,
Yes, Ms. Grube?
if you wish, I can just read out of the council procedure bylaw on reconsideration of a motion.
Would you do so?
Yeah, so reconsideration by council member, subject to subsection 5 below, a council member may, at the next council meeting, move to reconsider a matter on which a vote other than a vote that postponed a question indefinitely has been taken, and move to reconsider an adopted bylaw after an interval of at least 24 hours following the adoption. A council member who voted affirmatively for the resolution adopted by council may at any time move to rescind that motion, and the council member or council must not discuss the main matter referred to in subsection 1 above unless the motion is to reconsider that matter is adopted in the affirmative. So the way I read it is, in your bylaw in particular, you would have to make a motion to reconsider the matter, and it would have to be adopted. And then at the next meeting, you would bring the motion forward.
Thank you.
Leslie?
Yeah.
Can my earlier request be put into the minutes as a motion?
Yes, I was gonna I had put my hand up, but we carried on, so.
Technical difficulties. I motion that we bring the tabled agenda item, sorry, I don't have it right in front of me, if anybody has the number.
I'm just coming to it.
So many pages.
It was item 22-018S on page 19 of tonight's agenda.
There it is, yes.
Moved by
okay.
Councillor Hay and seconded by Councillor Kirk.
So I will motion that tabled item 22-018S be, the tabling be rescinded and it be brought back before council for the meeting on October 12th.
Point of order, if I may. Leslie, if I don't like thinking of a meeting, but when I read 131 of the community charter, it says mayor may require council reconsideration of a matter. 131(1) says without limiting the authority of a council to reconsider a matter, the mayor may require the council to reconsider and vote again on a matter that was the subject of a vote. 2, as restrictions on the authority under subsection 1A, the mayor may only initiate a reconsideration under this section 1 at the same council meeting as the vote took place or within the 30 days following that meeting. And I think we are at the 30 days. And what I'm trying to say is that what 2 residents brought forward in the talk may be considered as new information for the mayor.
Sure, I was just going by your actual council procedure bylaw, but the community charter would trump it. You're correct.
Sounds like I know what I'm talking about, eh?
Well, I was looking for that in the community charter, and then I thought, well, I'll just go to your procedure bylaw because it should actually be the same as the community charter, but it's not. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I take it then that we need to take a vote on whether to bring this back to the next meeting?
Oh, we can vote on
No,
that.
no. If you're going to follow the community charter, your worship, you're the one who can make that motion from what I remember on I've actually had a legal opinion on that before, so.
Oh, the motion to bring it back or the
Motion passes.
No, I'm not bringing it back.
Okay.
I have chosen not to bring the motion back. Let us move on to item 11, reports from committees of council and commissions. So that would be the Citizens Advisory Select Committee. So Councilor
There
Michelle.
was no meeting held.
Okay, thank you. So then, is there any new business? There is none. The calendar of outstanding items list. So there's a number of announcements here that the office is closed on September the 30th. Or
26th of October will also be.
yeah, October 26th. There will be a regular council meeting. The office will be closed October 10th. The October 12th, we're having a regular council meeting. Then on October the 26th is a regular council meeting. November the 2nd is the inauguration. November the 9th is a regular council meeting. The office will be closed on the 11th. And our last, then the next town hall meeting is on the 17th. And then we have a regular council meeting on the 23rd. So we received that for information. So then we are moving on to the closed meeting. And items to be released. And that is item 22-121. It was moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Mayor Polderman, that the closed meeting item, the acquisition, delivery, and installation of the temporary village office and temporary fire hall be released to the public agenda. And then item 2 is that we will be moving into a closed session, which will be closed to the general public under sections 90-1A, 90-1C, 90-1F, and 90-E.
Councilor Hay, make a motion to take a 5-minute break before moving into closed meeting.
I'll second.
So we will take 5 minutes before we move into the closed meeting.
So we just asked that our gallery just exit the meeting so that the council can move into a closed session.
Can you hand me the closed